Well, if it unifies, then union is good. Right? If the good is what unifies, then union is good. Well, brings completion as one, holds together according to the union, to unity, unification, and union. Well, then, that's good to know. Then, if that's the case, that's the grounds for perfecting. What is? Then there is in nature, there is as part of our reality, these powers that are bringing together the goodness of all things, regardless of where you find it. Now, let's take an example. Notice we can make the slightest change in this, slightest change in this. Cappuccino. Now, there are two people coming together to talk in a dialogue. Would you not agree we can use this entire language now and talk about the significance of dialogues under these conditions? Would you agree when two people get together, if they have an ideal in their mind of how to be fair with one another, how to pay attention to the words that are being used, how to be careful enough to allow the other party to develop in such a way that whatever they are thinking, they give them enough room and time to express it, and if they need help in making it more perfect, the other person is willing to share and go along and bring that about? Would you not agree then this third thing between them is a very interesting insight into what is possible through dialogue? If that's true, then in that dialogue that they may participate in, the various ideas they're talking about becomes into a whole and has a wholeness. The ideas are brought together through their reflection, and to the degree that they can maintain the discussion, it's held together, and therefore they can reach for meaning that allows itself to continue beyond them, but they share it together. So they're working together harmoniously. They then share a unity, and to that degree, whatever they are, whoever they are, drops away, and they're just following the logos, the word. To that degree, then, they reach meaning, which is one. Then they experience a kind of freedom, because they're able then to do that with the greatest respect for one another and for the word. Well, wait a minute then. What does that do to someone? What does that do? Well, then this third thing between them is the logos. They're then appreciative of the logos, of the word, of rationality, intelligibility in the universe, and they can share their highest or more interesting experiences with one another in the effort to try to make it even more intelligible and to share that. Well, then they're functioning more ideal, to the degree then that they are participating in this with this standard. They themselves are becoming like that ideal, and they too become rational, intelligible, and enter into a union and a oneness. Then if that's the case, then through the logos it perfects each according to its presence. Curious, isn't it? Right? It really brings about that very strange condition. Now, would you agree we're using a set of terms, the same set of terms, bread, lovers, dialogue, learning, and we're leaving out contemplation for a while? And we can find that the vocabulary that we're using in one, we can shift to the other, and therefore the relations that we find among these kinds of things are constant, and the only thing that changes is whether we're talking about bread or people or lovers or learning. So therefore we're developing a vocabulary that allows us to see the intelligibility behind these four domains. Ah, now, let's go back to this. Now we enter into the realm of contemplation. Right? So first, let me ask you. I just led you quickly through an exercise, sharing a certain language. Miss, what's it like to go through this?
Reflective.
Reflective?
Yeah, it causes one to reflect.
On what? On all those ideas. On all those ideas. Now, if you're following this, then you can say, by reflecting on all these ideas, what you are really seeing running through the whole thing is just nothing other than one, and the idea of the good, and the various ways in which you can break it down.
Well, I've seen it happen where people are happily in love.
Yeah.
As they get older, they tend to look alike sometimes.
Yeah.
This is always true, but
Yeah.
sometimes.
That's true. Yeah. 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 Good.
No, Socrates had a relationship with his wife. It was a little different.
Yeah, that's true. He had, had two.
They provided some need for each other.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd like to try something now. I'm going to give you something to read, and I think you will grasp every single word of it with me. We're now reading the 13th proposition of Proclus. There are two translations. I'm going to use the one on the bottom. That's Barbara Stecker's translation. Now, the thing I ignored, all right, was the opening statement. See whether you can go along with me now. See? Every good unifies which shares in it. Have we said that? Yeah, see? Every good, whether we're talking about the bread, or an ideal dialogic relationship, or lovers, right, or learning, right? Every good unifies which shares in it. All union is good. Good and the one are the same. Now notice the language. If indeed the good brings about the wholeness of all beings, but what makes whole and holds together the being of each is the one, then the good for those it's present to brings completion as one and holds together according to the union. I'm skipping the parentheses. So let me go back. Have we talked about the first line? Here it is. If indeed the good brings about the wholeness of all beings, but what makes whole, see, if there's wholeness, it presupposes there's whole, presupposes, and holds together the being of each, who see as the word being, is the one, then the good for those it's present to brings completion as one and holds together according to the union. Let's try it. Take any phrase in there or sentence, and let's apply it to any one of our four categories. We have 5, of course, but we're only using 4 at the moment.